Welcome to TOOP TV's newest segment, Fireside Chat. The original Fireside Chat was a regular radio show used by presidents to inform the public of the latest issues. It originated in 1933 and ran until 1944. But now the Fireside Chat is back and we're using it to tell you about the latest real estate issues. It's uninterrupted interviews with the experts in the know. So sit back, relax and enjoy Fireside Chat.
Well, today the Fireside Chat is something that is going to be a bit quirky, hopefully really interesting, and it's with an old friend of mine called Sputnik. I've got no idea what his real name is, but he's the creative director of Out of This World, and he's a very cool guy, except for one thing. When it came to selling his house, he didn't ring me, and I want to know why. Now, Sputnik, welcome.
Oh, well, what an introduction that is. Yes, no, I didn't ring you, did I? I rang you after it was too late, yes.
Yeah, but Sputnik, you know, I'm a bit of a precious creature, but when I did start to hear the story and you sent through some questions for some advice, my first reaction was, what the hell are you doing selling with someone else? But my second reaction was, wow, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
So before we get to that, let's talk about how we know each other and what your background is and what you do.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess the simple version of my background is I'm an advertising guy. So I've had a lot of advertising and marketing experience over probably the last 20 years, and I guess you and I have crossed paths through that at various times. And luckily for me, I guess I've always had you to call and ask various questions when I've been, buying or, doing stuff with real estate. And yeah, that's probably the gist of it right there.
Now I walked in, hadn't seen you for a while, and you're looking 10 years younger. What the hell are you doing?
Oh, this is a much better introduction. Let's go with that. I lived in Cambodia for a year. And when I came back from Cambodia, I thought I need to sort of get my act together and get a little bit fit and all that sort of stuff. And so some people decide to sort of do something simple. I decided I was going to run the New York Marathon.
Is that right?
I sort of basically started from a base of being able to kind of jog around the block and then worked up and sort of last year sort of became a runner, I suppose, instead of a jogger. And now I just run everywhere. And I mean, just the other day I did a 12-hour run where I ran 92 kilometres and all that sort of stuff. So don't drink,
And you don't wear out?
No, the 92 kilometres was pretty tough going.
You're not
I
kidding.
must admit. Yeah. So
yeah. And no alcohol for how long?
Just over 4 years now.
Well, I had a bit too much last night. Actually, I had friends over. Now let's get into the guts of what you're doing here. You send me an email and you're basically saying, how do I stand with this? Why don't you just tell us the story?
Yeah. Okay. Look, it's an interesting story at best, I suppose. Look, and I should start by saying the last property that I was involved in selling, which was my dad's house, I got Tim Threadgold to sell, and he did a sensational job.
Great.
And certainly when I went to sell this current property, which is a property I owned with my ex-partner, we got Tim around and he was fantastic. And the truth is we probably liked him the best. And then this sort of weird sort of fork in the road happened where another friend of ours recommended an independent person who he'd sold quite a number of houses through and said he's fantastic. And this, I suppose, unusual chain of events happened where, despite the fact that we were going to go with Tim, we suddenly, right at the last minute, went with this other person. And it seemed like a fantastic idea. It seemed like it was a really innovative way to go.
Okay, I'm really keen to. I'm going to cut in there, so let's not lose that spot.
Yeah.
So what was it? I mean, there must have been a sales proposition.
Yeah, and there was.
That turned you on. What was the sales proposition?
I'm going to sound like a sucker, but I'm not too proud to admit for some of the tricks that I fell for. One of the selling points was it was a fixed price commission, including all of the marketing.
Was that low or high?
It was not far off.
Can you give us some numbers, like what price range?
No, I can. Okay. It was $10,000.
On a what sale price?
On a, we were hoping for about $500,000 for the house.
Right, okay.
Okay, so, by comparison, off the top of my head, would have been pretty, not that far off where you guys would have been at. Okay, so it wasn't really, and it wasn't purely financially driven. One of the attractions in that was we knew the market was pretty tough at the moment. Okay, we could have been looking at 60, 90 days, and to keep advertising and marketing going through that time might have started to add up.
Okay.
And because the house was with my ex-partner, it means we had to agree on everything as we went. And I perceived that agreeing on how much we were going to spend on marketing as we went would be a potential problem, okay?
Minefield, yeah.
Something that we could have had an upset over, and I was keen to make everything as smooth as possible. So this proposition that, hey, we'll market your house, and regardless of how long it takes and all that sort of stuff, it'll cost the same amount. This seemed like a fantastic proposition, right? I mean, it's sexy,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you know, it's attractive to start with.
Right. Okay, and what about did you go into any questions about what was in that package?
Oh yeah, look, I mean, I fancy myself as being a reasonably savvy guy, so I thought I asked all the questions, and it included all the basic, you know, there was a sign, there was a brochure, there was internet advertising, there was press advertising as required, and that's probably part of where we came unstuck. You know, we'll come back to that in a second. So all the main bases were covered, and you know, I'm a big fan of the internet. I don't know what the statistic is, but my guess is, I don't know, 80 or 90% of people are, you know, sort of looking at the internet. And I know there's still the paper and all those other, you know, brochures and, you know, all that other stuff. But I thought, look, I think we've probably got this covered. This is going to work out all right.
Okay. So you make the decision to run with a fixed amount, which I actually, you know, find that really interesting.
Yep.
And for the reasons you've pointed out.
Yep.
Then what?
Okay, so to start with, a few little alarm bells went off. The first one was really early in the process. This particular real estate agent, one of his forms of communication, well, potentially the only form of communication, is a group email. So it's an email that goes out to everybody who perhaps he's selling houses to or has sold houses to. And so a group email went out and it said, lists all the properties that he's selling at any given time and the status of each one. And it listed my property and it said, we've received an offer on this property, isn't that fantastic?
So that information went to other people?
And that was the first I heard.
Is that information went to other people?
Correct, it went to the group email, right? And of course...
How does the Privacy Act fit in with that, I wonder?
Well, it didn't say what the offer was, but
Right,
it went to
okay.
everybody. And I guess it's his way of saying that he was doing a good job, you know, that he'd got an offer.
Yeah.
I just thought if I was paying someone $10,000, that might warrant a 20-cent phone call to me before he let everyone else know that there was an offer on my house. He might have actually called me and said, hey, Sputnik, we've got an offer on your house. You know, just thought we'd let you know. But apparently not. So this was the first sort of thing where I went, I wasn't expecting that.
Did you see the offer? Did you get to see the offer?
No.
So you didn't get to see the offer?
No. So I rang him. So, you know, I thought, that's okay. We're off to a little shaky start. But that's okay.
Okay.
So I rang him and I said, look, Shane, I think that you should probably call me if there's an offer on the property. And he said, look, it's not, you know, it's not really, it's a low offer at the moment. So that's why I didn't bother calling you. And I said, well, you sort of told everyone else about it. I don't really like hearing about stuff for my property almost second hand, you know, as everyone else is hearing it. So in future, could you please ring me first and, you know, let me know so I don't have to hear about it in a group email. And he actually seemed a little bit surprised by that, to be honest. I thought that was a fairly reasonable request, but he seemed a little bit surprised that I would ask to be contacted personally. So that was the first little hitch, I suppose.
So the email, I just need to get this right, of all of his clients went out to all of his clients, and it was a one batch email putting the status of each of those sales. So did you find the information about the other
of
people?
Course. Yep.
How did you find that was weird?
Oh, look, it wasn't weird necessarily because I, of course, don't care about anyone else's property. I only cared about mine.
Yep.
And I suppose it gave me a little bit of a sense of what was going on in the market. You know, so if he said we had lots of people through these properties or whatever, it gave me a sense that, you know, there was, you know, how that market was, with how active it was.
Do you think the email was truthful?
I had no reason to question that at the time.
Fine.
Yeah, I had no reason to, and you know, and of course, how would I know either way and stuff? I mean, retrospectively, I guess I look at how everything played out, and I guess there's a fair question of, you know, whether it was or not. I mean, even now, and we'll sort of, this is one of those sort of slightly meandering journeys, but even now...
It's a fireside chat, we can go anywhere you like, right?
People need to hang in there because this story gets, you know, way better, right? But,
okay.
But certainly now, even now that the process is over and it's completely, you know, gone sour and, you know, there's legal stuff and, you know, all kinds of horrible stuff happening, I'm still on his database and still getting emails telling me how fantastic he is and how much he gives personal service and, you know, bagging other real estate agents and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it is quite odd to me. I don't mind admitting that. And so at the time, I thought I'd headed that off at the pass. I'd made it clear what my expectations were, and I thought, beauty, smooth sailing from here.
Right, okay. So you're off and running, you're on the market.
Yep.
did you have any press ads, or what was the next phase? What was the next?
Yeah, look, I mean, we were really excited because really early on we got editorial in the paper. So there was a big picture and, you know, a story that because my background is as a creative person,
Writing,
as a writer specifically, I'd sort of written a press release. That was excellent, of course. And they went with that, and I thought, okay, you know, and I knew that was sort of driven by the paper. I mean, I know that you're a little bit at the paper's mercy as to, you know, what goes in and what doesn't.
Pretty much, yeah.
But, you know, fair's fair. That went in like on the first weekend, and we thought...
That would have really kicked it in.
Yeah, and so they had lots of people through there and all that sort of stuff, and we thought we're going all right. And look, to be honest, there was no press ads, okay? And to start with, of course, that didn't really bother me or occur to me because we had lots of people coming through. There was lots of activity. There was a few early offers. They were a bit low, but... You know, we sort of thought, okay, we're on the right track.
Tell me about the early offers. Did you sign off on those? Or?
No, never saw any offers in writing. They were just him relaying to us what the offer was. And because they weren't in our price range, I guess I assumed that the process had been someone had, I mean, I don't even mind telling you, you know, like, so we were, I think our price range was, we were sort of looking for 465 to 500. Okay, and so there were offers coming in around the 435, 440 mark, and he knew that we weren't really interested at that level, and so we certainly never saw anything in writing.
Any names associated with the?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
Just numbers, and sometimes there'd be like, you know, there's a person whose occupation is this from, you know, this suburb or whatever, but certainly no written confirmation.
Right? Okay.
Not that I can recall.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So is that unusual?
Well, I'm trying not to get involved in this discussion. I would love to because.
Right.
To be real, that's illegal.
Okay.
But that's no longer legal when the legislation changed.
Okay.
But rather than me, I don't want to come across like I'm sour grapes. I am sour grapes because you didn't sell this.
Oh, you're sour grapes, but I'm just sour, I think.
Yeah,
so,
you know what I mean. We've been mates a long time. I'm very interested in the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So, okay, the offers come in.
Yeah.
Then what's the next step? How are you going? Where's your emotional status?
Oh,
You're
look,
still on a bit of a high?
Oh, no, very quickly. And I should say probably is that the house at this stage is empty. Okay, so every week that goes past, I'm racking up another week worth of mortgage, okay, with no revenue coming in against it. So I'm a little bit antsy. And saying that, I mean, I went in knowing that this could be a longer sort of time frame to sell because of how the market was. But that is not a lot of consolation when you're handing money out and not getting anything back.
Did you get any advice on the presentation of the property to maximise its return?
Look, I can't remember what advice he gave, but I'm quite lucky that my ex is an amazing person and she went to an awful lot of effort to put furniture in and decorate it, and she's right into that sort of thing. So I was very lucky, and, you know, she might be my ex, but I'm still allowed to say nice things about her. And so she went, I was a bit like, just sell it how it is, but, you know, she tricked it up and it looked beautiful. So that part was all right. So. Okay.
So we've now had the editorial, we've had a lot of people through from that. You're on the internet and... Which internet? Just realestate.com?
Yeah.
Okay. And now where are we at? So there's offers coming through that are verbal offers.
Yep.
Haven't seen any substantiation of that.
No.
Taken on face value, but you're still proceeding.
Yep.
Okay. What next?
So at this stage, you know, after this initial flurry of activity, we think beauty, we're off to a good start. And then, of course, it just stalls for a while. And we get reports that, you know, there's a certain amount of people coming through. Every now and again.
What sort of numbers?
Oh, I don't know. You know, 14 people through, or like
off the open boards, or
yeah, I guess off the internet and all that sort of stuff. So we're getting and that status is still coming through in these group emails. Yeah. Okay, so we sort of find out about that.
On the group emails.
Yeah. So still no personal kind of.
No notes left afterwards.
There might have been one or two over a couple of months, but mostly the status updates we got were these group emails where everyone's status was all included.
It's bizarre.
And look, I've got to say that for an open inspection, I wasn't that fussed about that. Okay, I was sort of happy to get an email that said 14 people came through, because really what I wanted to know was there an offer? Were we going to sell this thing? Yeah. So, and then of course, I guess the pressure mounted a little bit. We're sort of at 30 days, we're at 60 days, and I'm going, hang on a minute, this is dragging on, and suddenly I've remembered, and this is where I have to take the credit for being a bit of a goose. Suddenly I've remembered that our contract included this whatever it takes marketing approach. We'll do some press ads. And of course, whilst I didn't think that was necessarily going to be the way to go, when you're desperate to sell a house, you would like to think, and as I phrased it to him at the time, you would like to think that you've left no stone unturned in your effort to sell this. And you only need one person to buy your house, right? You don't need 1,000 of them. So at some point along this path, I actually called him in and I said, look, I'm unhappy with some things, can we talk about it? And I think in this process, by the way, there was another offer. And again, that came in a group email. And this time I blasted him. Okay, I don't mind, I don't want to come across as a bad person, but I rang him and I was pretty colourful in saying, look, the first time I was happy to say, look, you didn't know what my expectations were, but I made that clear. Now I've heard about another offer and in a group email, this is really not good enough, and I've given him a bit of a rocket, okay? So, and at this point things started to go a little bit sort of, they probably went downhill from there, let's be honest, right?
This is, what, 60 days roughly?
Oh yeah, give or take,
Around there,
yeah.
yep.
So at this point I get him in and he comes in with his offsider and we start talking about, you know, what is and isn't happening. And of course, I say, what happened to the press ads? And it occurs to me that when you're on a fixed cost commission, the less money he has to spend
the more he
on
gets.
press ads,
Yep.
the more of that $10,000 he gets. And in hindsight, I would never have signed a contract like that with someone I didn't know, but because this person came on a personal recommendation, and I'll be more specific, the friend I have an enormous amount of respect for and has sold 6 houses through him. So I've got to assume...
Through what period? Through the boom period?
Oh, probably. And
Right.
that's,
So-
I don't know for sure, but it occurs to me that maybe this guy is great when anyone could sell a house.
Yeah, because if you go back to, say, January or December, January, I'd get it.
Yeah.
But I think in the last 6 months, up until we're in mid-late August, all the rules have changed.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.